Sometimes we act like a fool.
Hey guys, today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 ways that you can take small furniture pieces in your home as well as some decor pieces and give them a new life. So let's get started.
We're troublemakers. Sometimes.
So here is that pot. As you can see, it has tons of beautiful detailing on it, but it is very kind of run down and damaged and falling apart. So I am going to try and bring it back to life with some paint, some wax, and just, you know, try my best here. I absolutely love working on projects like these because this was destined for the garbage and I am here to give it brand new life. And this was in a pretty rough shape. There was tons of loose stuff on it. So I took that same paper that I just used on my other project and just sanded down some of these loose pieces. Just so that way they don't interfere when I'm painting it. I'm not sure if somebody at some point was trying to fix this piece because this brown kind of grayish it looked like it was in there. It looked like clay almost, and it was on there. It reminded me that something that you would do when you would try and glue pieces together. However, there was nothing on the inside to indicate that it was cracked, so I'm not quite sure what that was or whether that was just a color that was underneath. Like I said, I am not sure. So once all of the loose pieces were sanded down, I proceeded to paint the whole piece with graphite. I gave it a fairly decent coverage. There were some areas that were showing because I just wanted them to show. I love using, obviously if you watch my channel, I absolutely love using chalk paint, especially for projects like these. Originally, before I actually saw exactly how textured this piece was, I was considering using, mixing up some baking soda paint and painting it with that, but this had so much texture on it that I did not, that would have been pointless. But if you would like to see me use some baking soda paint and what the look that it gives to a smooth surface, please let me know down in the comments. I would love to share. There are plenty of vases and pots that need some new life to them, given to them between my house and my mother-in-law's house, and we have been actually talking about redoing them all. She was considering just chucking them and buying all new ones, but I love redoing stuff like this, so I thought that the baking soda paint might do the trick for her. So like I said, let me know down in the comments if you would like to see that kind of video. And I currently can't go to thrift stores. They're shut down because we are in lockdown. I live in Ontario, Canada, so shopping and my family members' garbages is what I've resorted to. So now that the piece was painted and drying, I mixed up my white acrylic paint and water, equal parts of white acrylic paint and water. Originally, I was going to use white wax on this project, but then I have changed my mind in the process of it, which happens often when I'm DIYing, and decided to do an acrylic whitewash on this piece. This is such an easy process, and it gives the pot such a unique and amazing look. And I will be using the sponge brush, 1-inch sponge brush, to apply the paint onto the piece, and you will also need a lint-free rag to wipe everything off. So just an FYI, you will go through several of these brushes because the surface is fairly rough, and as you're applying this paint, it tends to rough up the sponge and fall apart. So I'm dabbing instead of rubbing here because I'm trying to get it into all the crevices. I'm not doing this throughout the whole piece because there are areas where there's not that much detail. So in those areas, I just brush it on. But here I was just dabbing just to get into all the little nooks and crannies that this pot had. And you want to work in sections. You don't want to cover this whole area all at once because the paint will dry. So you want to pick sections and just work on that section until it's completely done. So once I'm finished applying the paint, I take the rag and I will wipe it off. So this is fair. The look that you end up with totally depends on you. If you don't want so much white to show, you wipe it off more. If you want more of the white to show, you don't wipe it as much. I do like all the little nooks, crevices to have the white showing in them, so I'm not going as heavy on the wiping in those areas. And then when I move on to a little bit more of a design, like the little things that are popping out, I'd go a little bit more just to give it a little bit of a darker look, because the dark and then the white around it really looks good that way. But that's just me. Like I said, this can be, you can take this any way you want, like how much, it all depends on how much pressure you're putting and how much wiping you're actually doing. And if you want to get into those little crevices, I just kind of wrap it around my finger and push it in with my nail and wipe it down that way, the rag. Or you can even maybe take a little Q-tip and get in there to get the as much white off as you want. Once I was finished with this pot, I did show it to my mother-in-law and she absolutely loved it, and that's how we came about talking about all the other pots and vases that she had that she wanted me to redo. So here it is, all on its own. I think it looks absolutely stunning, completely new look. I can't believe it is that ugly terracotta pot that it was. I'm sure at one time in its life it was beautiful, but it kind of ran its course. And I did decorate it just a little bit with some greenery just to show you what it would look like if you had a plant in there. Hi everyone, it is Sonja from Domestic Diva DIY. In today's video, I'm bringing you another trash to treasure makeover. I got this little console table off of Facebook Marketplace for, as far as I can remember, because it's been a while, I paid $100 for it. I know it's a bit steep, and I think, but it was the perfect shape and the width, so I knew I had to have it. I'm going to be giving it a major upgrade today, so if you want to see this makeover, just keep watching. I'm going to be using this table as a console entryway table, but you can also use it as a sofa table, hallway table, in place of a sideboard. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I saw this table online and I really loved the way it looked, but the starting price for this table was like $700 and up for the same size. So I'm going to recreate the same wood look that this table had, and here are the supplies that I was using. I'm going to be using all Annie Sloan paints and waxes. I'm going to start with Old Ochre, and then I'm going to do a wash with graphite. I'm going to do 2 parts water, 1 part paint, depending on how dark you want it. That's how much water you add. So the darker it is, less water you add. I'm also going to use dark wax, and I'm going to finish it off with clear wax. And here are all the different brushes that I'm going to be using to apply the paints and the waxes. So I'm going to start off by cleaning the piece. You want it to be free of any sticky stuff or any anything that can prevent the paint from sticking on it. I'm just using a wet cloth that I wetted with water because there weren't any sticky stuff on it, but if there were, I would probably wash it with either a degreasing soap or some sort of a degreasing type of cleaner. And then if you are using a soap and water or any other type of chemical or anything to take stuff off, you want to wash that off as well. So that way you don't have the residue from that on there. Once I was finished cleaning it up, I did go ahead and remove the little handles, the little knobs. These weren't actual drawers, they just looked like drawers. So I just removed the knobs, and then I ended up filling them with some wood filler and sanding it down once it dry. So that way I did not want to I wasn't going to replace and add new knobs to it. I just wanted it to be knob free. And for sanding, I did use just a 300 grit sandpaper because I had it on hand. Really anything would work. Once everything was all nicely sanded, I did proceed to painting the whole piece with a solid coat of any Sloan Old Ochre. This is a very creamy white, I would say, like yellowish white paint, like looks like heavy cream. I would best describe it. And because this table was white, I did not need to apply two coats. If you were painting over, let's say, a mahogany table, I would recommend two coats of it. But because I was going over white, it did not require two coats. Once the old ochre had fully dried, now I'm going to make my wash. With graphite, I'm going to add some paint into just a plastic cup, and then I'm going to add about double the amount of water. So 2-to-1 ratio. And then I'm going to use my rounded brush to apply this wash. As you can see, it's quite runny, so you definitely want to have something underneath the table to protect your floor. And this is such a great technique to do because it kind of accents all the little nooks and crannies that the table has. The top didn't have as many, but the spindle legs and around the little drawers, there was lots of detailed, and this just made it look kind of accentuated it. I'm moving in the same direction, and then I'm going to be using a lint-free rag to wipe it off. And again, the more you apply, the more it's gonna show. You just want to make sure that you are wiping it off and waiting for it to dry completely between the coats. as you can see here, I didn't go overly heavy with graphite, but I did enough so it shows through and it kind of accents all those little cuts and grooves and all that stuff. Now I'm going to be adding a dark wax, Annie Sloan dark wax, and I'm using the dark wax brush by Annie Sloan as well. And I'm going to be working in sections, adding the wax on, and then wiping it off. And just an FYI, when you are working with an antiquing wax, you're not buffing the wax out. You're simply just taking back a layer of it so it's kind of blends in a little bit more. No heavy wiping, none of that, just a very light wipe off. Applying this dark wax gave me exactly the look that I was going for. Now, because the table wasn't quite tall enough as I wanted to, I searched everywhere for feet, and then I finally found these. I think they were $3.50 at Home Depot, and I had my husband add them. He added a piece of wood and then first, and then he added the foot to it because he had to use a washer, and so he had to drill it inside of it and use a washer and a nut to attach the leg. So that's why he added the wood first. So I added 6 legs to it, and then I went ahead and sanded the pieces of wood just to smooth out the edges, and I am using an 80 grit sandpaper, and then I'm going to use the exact same technique to paint the feet as I did for the rest of the piece of furniture, where I go with ochre first, then with the wash, and then I went ahead with the wax. Here is the finished product. I think it turned out absolutely stunning. I just love the way it looks. I love the way it looks at my front entry, all nicely decorated. It gave it such a nice wood look that you would, really have to look hard to see that, that isn't an actual wood grain.
We try to be cool, not being givers, only takers. Stop for a minute, stop and breathe for a minute. Don't get over your head, try to listen instead, won't you?
Today I'm going to be bringing you another upcycling video. I am upcycling this mantle, or giving it a makeover. I have done this mantle way before YouTube days. It was a bright orange wood originally, and I had chalk painted with 3 different colors and loved it for many years. However, now with the whole new setup, sorry, it's real life here, but with the whole new setup, it's just not working for me anymore. So I have decided to give it a bit of a new makeover. I am going to be using one paint for this, and I'm going with the Benjamin Moore Aura Interior in Matte. This is in black. It's just called black. And this is the paint that I had painted my accent wall as well as my door. And then there's another door and the bathroom wall, shiplap wall. So there's a lot of that black going, and I thought this would look good here. I am doing something really fun for the mantle, so you want to make sure you watch this video thoroughly so you can see what I do for the mantle. I'm also going to be doing a little frame about like where the TV is. The TV is gonna go down, and I'm going to work on that back wall as well. So lots of changes coming to this space, but I think it's going to look really good. It's going to stand out and be almost like a focal point, which is what I want. So we are going to get started. I'm going to prep the mantle first, and that's what I'm going to work on, just getting the mantle painted first. And then we're going to move on other things. First thing that I did is I covered my work area. I prepped it by taping it, using some garbage bags as a tarp and taping them to the floor so that way they don't move and I don't slip while working on the surface. And then also I cleaned the fireplace. I am also going to remove the face of the fireplace so that way I can paint behind it. That way I don't run into a chance of not covering everything, the whole back. Everything was prepped. I actually just saw this little trick, and I'm just baffled that I haven't thought of this myself. Is I took some aluminum foil and I just covered the tray because I was going to use this tray for several days. I didn't want to have to wash it every single time or run into a chance of it drying out. This way, once you are done painting it, you just remove the tin foil and you have a clean tray underneath it. For painting the fireplace, I'm going to use a small foam roller as well as a small brush. I'm going to do all the big surfaces with a foam roller and then get into all the little crevices with the brush. This did not take very long at all, and I'm also not painting the top part of the fireplace. That part comes right off, and I'm going to be building a mantle top for that while I wait for my paint to dry. So like I said, this didn't take very long. It took about a coat and a half, I should say probably 2 coats to cover this fireplace. This paint is phenomenal to work with. The coverage is really good. It goes on smoothly, and it's not for a matte paint. It's fairly easy to clean as well. And I just love the coverage that I get from this paint. So once I finish up the paint, I move on into the garage. So we went ahead to Home Depot and picked up some wood. So we picked up what were these? 1x8x6. And then we picked up the big piece of this thing. It's called the project panel, shelving furniture project crafts. It was the right width. So it was 16 by 72 is what we kind of needed. So we did end up cutting 6 inches off to fit. And now we are going to assemble the mantle. So we just wanted to make sure it fits. We removed the top part and slid this on it to see how it looks and whether it's a good size and if it sits nicely and if it fits before I went ahead and went outside to stain it. We first cut the wood to size, and then we used a nailer to nail it in place, and then used L brackets to secure it so the pieces would stay together. So the first thing that I'm doing here is I wanted to rough up the mantle. I wanted it to look like old barn board. So I am banging it up with some hammer and also using a screwdriver just to give it some scratches and really rough up the piece. And now I'm just going to use a wood filler just to fill in some gaps. When working with pine, it's never straight, so there is a little bit of a gap at one end, so I just wanted to fill that in just to have a bit of a more appearing of a solid piece. So while I wait for the wood filler to cure, which takes about 15 minutes, I'm going to test out which stain I want to stain this in. I'm going to mix several of them and then go from there. So here are some stain ideas. This is the Minwax Aged Oak in gel stain, which is the same one I use for my door. This one is the Early American in Minwax. The other one is Weathered Oak, and then this one is the Special Walnut by Birthday, and then this one is Special Walnut and Aged Oak mixed together. This is Special Walnut and Weathered Oak mixed together, and then this one is Weathered Oak and Aged Old American mixed together. So we are leaning towards this one, I think. So that will be the Aged Oak and Early American. Once the wood filler had cured, I am taking my round sander and sanding it first with the high grit sandpaper, and then I'm going to smooth everything out a little bit with a low grit paper. Now I am also taking the sander with the high grit paper and just creating some dents into the wood so it looks like it appears like it's old. Once I was done sanding, I'm taking some of this mineral spirits and some paper towel just to give it a good clean. You don't want any of the sanding particles to be left on this before you stain and apply a wood conditioner. I am actually starting with the wood conditioner. So whenever you are working with soft wood, they recommend conditioning it so that way you get an even application of stain. So you don't get discolorations in the stain. So I went ahead and actually went out and bought wood conditioner for this project just because I didn't want to take any chances. They do say that mineral spirits sometimes are enough and they will condition the wood enough, but I still wanted to just make sure that I don't have any bleed throughs. I did not use a wood conditioner on one of my other projects with the raw pine, and even though the project looked good and I don't mind the way all that different colors look, I didn't want that same look for this piece. While I waited for the wood conditioner to dry, so about half an hour or so, I went ahead and painted the 1x3 trim that I had purchased as well at Home Depot, with the same black that I painted the fireplace. And now I took a measuring cup and I measured out equal amounts of the stain, just so that way, in case if I didn't measure out enough, I know exactly how much to put of each. You can apply the stain with a foam brush and then wipe it off. I prefer just using a rag and applying it and then wiping it off. Once I covered the whole surface, I go ahead again and wipe everything down. I do repeat this process twice, waiting approximately 4 hours in between. I love the way the stain ended up looking on this piece, and all the little dents and scratches that I made just picked up a little bit of a darker color and turned out really nice, making it look really old and rustic. I used this similar stain combination on my oak table that I refinished a couple weeks ago, and the stain turned completely different. I still like it, but I love this one a little bit more. Now, this is a couple days later, 2 days to be exact. I am inside and I am using that same black paint to paint the in middle of the wall. I actually had my husband use a large level to draw a line so I know where to paint, so I don't go past that line. I am using a large roller now to apply this paint, and then I'm going to do this in 2 coats. Again, the coverage was really nice and smooth, and didn't require 2 full coats, but it did require me to go over some areas a second time. And once, while I was waiting for the paint to dry, I went ahead and applied a sealer for the mantle. I did open a window because it was a little bit stinky, and I am using General Finishes water-based polyurethane, and I did 2 coats of this. So once everything was nice and dry, the mantle and the wall, we ended up using that 1x3 trim to create a frame around the painted surface. So the top part sits on the 2 sidebars, and we used a nailer to nail everything to the wall. I have to say, I am so very pleased with the way this turned out. It just looks so much better in the new space than the other one did. I loved my original fireplace that I painted many years ago, but this one definitely, it needed to be updated to fit the new style, the new decor. I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments. This was a very inexpensive upgrade makeover to do on the existing fireplace, and like I said, I love it, and I would love to know if you guys love it as much as I do. I also shared a little clip of what it looks like with the TV on.
Who you wanna be for a minute? Don't get over your head, you're like everyone else on here. You could gain from being a bit nicer, knowing to talk and when to shut your mouth. You're so moody, always such a fighter. Try to open up your mind.
Today we'll be working on this desk vanity. I will be making it over. If you follow along, you know this one was in my master bedroom. I had gotten a new one, and this one needed some updates. It was looking a little rough around the edges. I had gotten this off of Facebook Marketplace, and used it as my vanity. And there were a couple things on there that I needed to sand down. It was dirty, but it was like oily dirty from all the makeup and stuff like that. So I wanted to upcycle it again and maybe put it out for sale since I already had another one in my room. So I had gotten this. It came with a dresser. I have the original makeover already on my channel. I will link it at the end for you to check it out. Both the little dresser that it came with and this desk. And now you can see how I make it over again and maybe resell it. So I had removed all the hardware first, and then I'm going to give it a good wipe down, take off as much grease and things that I can. Some of it I could not, it was just on there. I think it was more stained than greasy. And then I took a little, just a hand block sander and just sanded down that little, it looked like water damage, but it actually wasn't. I'm not quite sure. I think it was just scratches in the paint. So I took them off just so they don't show up when I paint over it. I will be painting this piece of furniture with Annie Sloan Athenian Black, which is their black paint. They also have a graphite, which is more kind of lighter black, but this one is a deep black. And I'm going to start off with the drawers, and then I'm going to move on to the piece of the rest of it. I would also like to mention that this video is part of a Flippin' Friday challenge hosted by Jamie from Board or Bananas and Board or Bananas DIY. I will have Jamie's channels linked down below as well as the playlist, so make sure you head on over to that playlist and her channels to check them out. And the playlist will be full, will have tons of flippin' ideas, so make sure you check it out after you're done watching my video. So here is the piece after first coat. As you can see, I'm going to need to apply another coat on here. It was just some of the white was just showing through, and I figured that is exactly what I was gonna need to do. And I also need to paint that piece. While the second coat was drying, because I didn't want to bore you with me painting it with the second coat, I ended up adding some gold gilding wax, which is Annie Sloan as well, onto all the hardware. And I'm always also going to be adding it to those little accent pieces that were removed from the um, drawers. But before you do that, since the gilding wax has to be the last thing you apply to your furniture, I am just adding a clear coat, clear lacquer coat. This is to protect the paint and the piece on it. And then once that had a little bit of time to dry, you want it to dry completely, I proceeded with adding the wax onto the edges where you can see that there is wax, there is the gold already. This one was a lot more gold that I was adding than the dull gold that was already on there. So while the clear coat was drying on there, I started adding clear coat to all the drawers. The body of the furniture wasn't quite dry yet, so I wanted to get things done that I could. So while the drawers were drying, I added the wax to the side of this, and I wanted to get in here as close as possible to show you how this looks. I think it almost gave it a new life. I liked this gold a little bit better than the gold that was already on there. Now I just have the top of the furniture left to add the protective coat. I already did the body of it. And then once that was completely dried, I did wipe some of it off from the gold edge that was on there. And then once it was almost dried, I went ahead and added the gilding wax to the sides of the where the gold is showing. Just the same idea as the other one, just to kind of give it some more life. The last part before I put the piece back together was to do the legs and this little accent piece that was at the bottom of this desk, and I really liked to accentuate this little decor piece here, and so by adding the gold it really made it pop out. And then I also did the two legs here, and then I also did the little, just a little part on the bottom of the other two legs, but I did videotape it. It's just with the angle it did not really show very well. And then I put the whole piece back together, and I am so pleased with the way this piece turned out. This was not a very solid piece of furniture. It was more of the cheaper kind of furniture, but I think with this upgrade, the paint and the gilding wax really elevated the piece and made it look very high end. I would love to know what you think about this piece. Do you like it? I did end up applying another coat of the lacquer on top, trying not to hit the golden edges, and just for extra protection.
Sometimes we laugh when we're afraid. Sometimes we smile when we're mad. And sometimes we wish we'd never said.
Today I'm going to be sharing with you a very simple DIY using items. Well, I thought I was going to use items that I had at home, but then my husband threw out one of the pieces just this past garbage day, so I needed to go out and get another item because I did not have that on hand. But anyways, the rest of the stuff was things I had on hand, and I will be creating a little side table for my back porch because there's two chairs that don't have a table, and I feel like we're always kind of wanting to put our drinks down, but we have nowhere to put them. So I came up with an idea to create a little side table. So without further ado, let's get started. So I will be using this 5-gallon pail that I had on hand, and I have also, this is the item I had picked up at the dollar store. It's a pizza pan. I had a tray that I was using last year on the table, but it kind of got really rusty, so I was gonna repurpose it, but ended up in a garbage. And then I have some hot glue, some Gorilla Glue, extra glue sticks, and then just some stuff to cut the handles off, as well as the spray paint. I use the spray paint to paint my pots out front. I will have that video linked down below. So first thing I want to do is remove these handles. To wrap some jute rope or something around just so it doesn't it's not too sharp. I like using this pail because I can fill it with water or sand or dirt or even rocks for so the wind doesn't take it away. So I'm just gonna give it a cleaning. Now I'm going to add some glue. I'm going to put Gorilla Glue everywhere, and then I'm just going to do a couple spots with hot glue just for the more quicker gluing, and then so it allows the Gorilla Glue to actually have a chance to work. You can measure out your circle to make sure that you are right in the center, but I think I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, now I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit before I spray paint it. I'm going to use some jute rope just to go wrap around here to make it look a little bit prettier. So here it is. I think it turned out perfect. I love the addition of the jute rope. Jute rope, I can never say that. I think it's gonna be perfect for this little sitting area over here for people to put their drinks, or me, since we're still at 5 people. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and like I said, if this is your first time stopping by, I would love it if you press that subscribe button and a notification bell so don't miss out any of my upcoming DIYs. So until next time, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and see you in my next video.
Stop for a minute. Stop and breathe for a minute. Long it over your head. Try to listen instead.